Hello and welcome back to the Web Canopy Studio Show. I'm your host, Tom Andrews, and today we are joined for the second time, but it's been her first appearance in around a month, by Elizabeth Winkleman. Last time we spoke Harry Potter, as well as some very good HubSpot tips. Today, I'm sure it will be exactly the same, but this time we're going to be focused specifically on sales managers. So if you're a sales manager or a salesperson within that team, and you want to get more out of your HubSpot or your team's performance, essentially, then this is the episode for you. So, Elizabeth, welcome back to the Web Canopy Studio Show. Your second appearance with me here, and it was fun the last time we did it. It was good. So you must be absolutely buzzing, as we say here in England, to be back.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. I'm looking forward to it. I like talking sales teams and productivity and Harry Potter, and whatever else we end up talking about on this.
Exactly, those three things, not necessarily in that order either. So
right. Yeah. Harry Potter would probably be first, but that's okay.
Exactly. Yeah, that side podcast, that little side hustle podcast, that's still on the agenda. Just Harry Potter.
Yeah.
So where we're going to be talking about sales, and not necessarily sales tactics and what to do on sales calls, but the more operational side of sales, how to make the most out of your HubSpot, how to make sure your team are tracking their activity in HubSpot properly and all that kind of stuff. When we're talking about that, I think it would be great for you to just talk about your experience with your previous employer, because you come from essentially that role and you have so much first-hand experience and first-hand experience that a lot of people at agencies won't actually have relating to a sales position. So just tell us about that.
Yeah. At my previous role, I was VP of sales and marketing, and we actually did a Salesforce to HubSpot migration. And anytime there's change, even people that are cool with change, like I'm one of those people, I like new stuff. I like trying out new gear, new tech, things like that. I'm like, ooh, let's go in and break it. There are obviously people that are married to their process. They don't want to change. It's working well. So why do they have to do something new, right? Even if the new thing is better, it's shiny, it's cool, it streamlines everything, doesn't matter. There's always risk, right?
Yep.
It's fear of the unknown. And so how do you get your people to go forward and follow your new process, right? And like, it's really hard. Like, I remember being very frustrated. I'm just being really transparent, where it's like,
that's good.
Can't you guys just please just do it. Just do it. Like, that would be the easiest ways to just do it. And so what happened was there was, from a migration standpoint, there were things that we changed from Salesforce to HubSpot because the HubSpot platform is a little bit different than Salesforce, which meant they would have actually less data entry. So there's win number one. You guys don't have to do it because we're getting rid of it. So we're not going to do that anymore. But it was almost like I had to prove ROI of HubSpot to the sales team. There were a handful of people that were super eager to do it. And so what I did was I used them to test drive the portal. And I'm like, shoot holes in it. Put the other sales reps hats on and think like they would. Like, their processes, what they do and they don't do. Let's go there for a hot second. Think about what they do and figure out if this is going to work for them. You know what I mean? And I was transparent with everybody the entire time. Like, we're getting rid of these fields. We're going to use these tools instead. Things like that. Give them things that they can start with. Because a lot of times, like, what I found is the sales reps, they just want to do a good job. They're competitive. They want to make those sales. They want to get, good customers and grow the business. That's every single sales rep's goals, right? And so if you can prove that the HubSpot platform in particular is going to help them do more in less time, that's a win.
Yeah.
And so, as soon as you can, but the convincing part is the hard part, because there's so many things they could do in HubSpot that you kind of have to figure out everything that you want, get an end goal, and then literally, have you guys seen What About Bob? Did you see What About Bob with Bill Murray? I haven't seen
What About Bob. What About Bob?
Oh my gosh, it's a great movie. You have to be a Bill Murray fan, but What About Bob is a patient of Richard Dreyfuss's in the movie, and I can't remember his name because it's been forever. But Richard Dreyfuss in the movie wrote a book called Baby Steps. And so it's like baby steps to get over your fear of something, or baby steps to help you cope with something. So just think of think of Bob and baby steps, just baby steps. What do you want to tackle first? Because if you try and do everything all at once, it's not going to happen. It's going to fail miserably. So if you want them to just adopt HubSpot, that's one change already. Let them keep doing their process, bake HubSpot into it, and then introduce something new. It's like, okay, now you've been using HubSpot, I guess the Chrome extension and the Outlook extension could be another thing that you introduce to them right away. Most of them think that that's awesome because then they don't have to manually log anything.
And
right?
that's huge for salespeople, isn't it?
Yeah. You just have to show them that. If your team is somebody that goes to a lot of in-person events or they're doing in-person meetings, show them the app, because the app has this really cool business card scanner. And actually in a video I created for Web Canopy to send for training, I actually wrote Harry Potter, Auror, Ministry of Magic, made up an email name.
That's
you know what I mean?
Love.
Exactly, right? But you can actually scan even a handwritten note and get contact information that way. So that's what I did to just test it out to show people. But you can physically take a photo of a business card and HubSpot will parse that information and create a contact record for you. You just edit it if something's wrong and then save it and you're in the app and it's good to go. You don't have to remember later. You can literally have HubSpot in your pocket.
Which means you can have a few drinks at the event and then not have to worry about getting their information.
Exactly.
It's possibly the biggest and easiest win a salesperson can get. You mentioned there, Elizabeth, that you want these baby steps. Do you find that a lot of companies, when they do decide to adopt HubSpot, disregard that baby step advice and they just want everything there and then? Because where, again, salespeople are generally very competitive, if they're finally convinced that, yes, HubSpot is the platform for them, let's go with it, I can imagine a lot of them being like, okay, it's got this feature, this feature, this feature, let's do them all now. And then what I imagine happens is that they get overwhelmed and they don't start tracking things properly, and then they start yearning for Salesforce or whatever system they were using before. So does that happen? And how often would you recommend to implement a new tool?
Yeah. Ooh, that's a great question, because that answer, and this sounds, I don't want it to sound mean, I'm just going to be very honest. It depends on how tech savvy your sales reps are and what you're doing, right? My advice to a lot of companies is to start small. I love the concept of the MVP, that minimum viable product. Start small. Fix the issues that are glaringly obvious. Like if you have issues with people logging deals and the correct amount of information on a deal, like for a new deal, put it as required on the form. You know what I mean? It's as simple as that. They can't log a deal without filling out those 5 things, whatever those 5 things are, right? You can also populate things via workflows, right? So if somebody, enters a deal at this stage, but then you want the life cycle stage to change from SQL to opportunity, right? That's a common one where everybody forgets to change life cycle stage. Automate it. If it's something that you can predict that there's a definite trigger that happens every time, automate it for them, and then your data will just be cleaner in the long run. You can do things like that, right? The other thing you can do is deal rules where your reps can only enter a new deal in a certain stage. Because what I've seen is reps will only enter it when they know it's going to be closed won. And then, that's cool. I get it, but that's not helping the business grow. It's not helping, understanding why you're losing deals and things like that. So even though, yes, it's frustrating to put in a closed loss and a closed loss reason, you're actually going to help your marketing efforts and your sales efforts by having that data in HubSpot and then using that data to make intelligent decisions going forward. Because then what that would impact is stuff like lead scoring or marketing nurture or things like that. Because you might even notice a trend on an industry that you previously thought was your target audience. And then you're like, wait a second, healthcare, we actually keep losing these, but we're killing it with finance. You know what I mean? So things like that. Anyway, it'll help you spot trends.
On that note, when you actually, if you're a sales rep or a sales manager looking to go to the CEO, for example, and say, look, I know that you think, or the marketing team, I know that you think that, using your example, healthcare clients are our avatar, they're our buyer persona, but I don't think that is the case anymore. I think it is finance companies. If you don't have any concrete data when you're doing that, then you're going to get laughed out the room, and they're going to be like, no, that's just an excuse for you not hitting your targets. Whereas if you can go and say, look, these are our past 100 calls or 200 calls or however many calls, as you can see, there's a lot of closed won deals in like with this type of client for this reason, like a lot of lost deals because of these common reasons, like these 2 or 3 common reasons that we're seeing time and time again amongst this kind of business, this kind of person within that business. Then those people are going to be able to see, okay, you are correct. You're basing this off actual data. And then the whole company's philosophy, the people they're going to be targeting, that is going to change. So as a manager, as a sales rep, whatever you are, just logging that, keeping that data is going to ensure that when you do, or if you do go to somebody higher up and ask for a change because of these reasons, you're going to have a solid reason for that change.
Yeah. And then even further down the food chain, back in the marketing world, right? When a lead comes in, what'll happen over time is like by refining and getting that niche narrow down, right? Everybody's afraid of the niche. And actually the niche is where it's at, right? We know that, right? We preach it all the time. But when you get the niche narrowed down and you get leads, will you get less leads? Yes, you will. However, you will get highly qualified leads, which then leads to more closed won out of less leads, which is less work for your sales team. They'll have less time spent prospecting and things like that. And again, it's over a long period of time. This is not overnight. It's kind of like SEO. Didn't we talk about SEO? Or you and I were talking about SEO. Anyway, organic traffic, it's the same thing where it's going to take a long time to simmer and cook. And the same thing with this, but over time you will see an increased quality of leads and an increase in closed won by doing the math, getting the data, and then making those decisions, based off of actual data from your portal. So anyway.
In your experience, have you generally found it's sales managers or sales reps who are generally more adverse to switching to HubSpot if they're coming from a different platform?
Yes, to be honest, a lot of the sales teams are, because the sales teams are used to tools that they have. And this is what I love about sales reps typically, at least in my experience, they just want to get in and do their job, and they want to do it in the most efficient way possible. And the most efficient way possible is how they're currently doing it, right? Because they're used to it. They don't have to think about it. They go into autopilot, and I get that. That's totally cool. And you know what? Some of them have amazing processes. It's not that any of them are bad. But when you have somebody that's like completely just working out of their inbox, right? And they're logging deals in an Excel sheet, but it only lives on their desktop computer. Like if that computer goes away or something, you don't know anything.
Or they leave the company.
Correct. And they take all of that with them. At least if it's in HubSpot, you can see it. Even if it's bad data, at least you have something rather than nothing. But like, with the HubSpot tools in particular, there's so many advantages that they can get, like just by adopting a few different things. Like, yes, it's a change in process, but like you and I were talking about sequences, for example, like a lot of reps end up doing the same type of follow-up, right? And the template is the same pretty much. And yeah, you're going to personalize it because that's good sales outreach, right? But you can do that in HubSpot, and you can even have the sequence set up so that there's an email task. So you don't have to automatically send out the email. You could just task yourself to send it out, add that personalization, click the task off, and then the sequence goes to the next step. So there's some things you can do that like will just help you. And it doesn't need to be completely automatic until you're ready to, it's like cruise control in your car, or you get a Tesla and then it's just on auto drive. That's weird. And so it probably feels weird, I bet you, to give up a little bit of that and let tech take over, so to speak.
But that's going to save you so much time, isn't it? Because like you say, if you're having to do all of that manually, it's just going to take ages, as sales reps will know. Whereas when you have everything set up, ready to go, automated, if you could just go, okay, let me click into this deal, change like this first line in an email, and then hit send, and then move on to the next one, all within HubSpot. It's just so much faster, isn't it? It just speeds up the process. And let's be honest, speed is money, isn't it? So it's a win-win for everyone. Speaking about tools and different tactics that these sales reps can actually utilize, you've been working client side for a long time now. So when you're working with these various teams, what specific tools within HubSpot maybe surprise sales reps or sales managers the most? And they're like, wow, this is a really cool tool or feature that I didn't know existed.
Yeah. Honestly, a lot of people, it's snippets. I think snippets are like one of the underutilized pieces of HubSpot. A lot of people think snippets are for external only, but you can actually use it in notes and all kinds of things all over HubSpot. So it doesn't have to be just
Elizabeth,
in an email or something like that.
For people who don't know, do you want to just explain what snippets are?
Oh, yeah, let's back it up. When I'm teaching people HubSpot, snippets are kind of like a template, right? That you can call up with a hashtag. So like, let's say it's hashtag proposal. It's a closed won deal. The snippet contains things that you have to repeat over and over. So it's like a little shortcut. So is it a template? Yes, but it doesn't operate like an email template inside of HubSpot would. It's short in context, kind of like a tweet or whatever it's called now that it's not Twitter.
Yeah, an X site.
The platform formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah.
It's like shorter in context, but it can be used by, sales, service, whomever, and they're just dead useful. And so those can be things, or it could even give you like hashtag, template or something like that. That's a bad example, but you could have it fill in things for like if you're creating a note on a contact record or something like that. The other one is playbooks. I don't think a lot of people fully utilize the playbook tool in HubSpot. Like a lot of people have playbooks and there's different definitions of playbooks. But that playbook tool is really cool too. And then in HubSpot, there's actually a lot of default things available in libraries like email templates. And it tells you why these email templates are high performing. Like a lot of people just go in and start from scratch, which is fine. But I'm a huge advocate of the template and looking at the libraries that are in HubSpot. And like the email template, for example, there's one in there called the breakup email. And I don't remember the response rate that HubSpot said it got. It's like 33% or something crazy. It's a high performing sales template. So it's like, well, why not try it and use it? Just, take it and put it into your own brand voice and go from there.
And the crazy thing is with these templates is that there are a lot of gurus out there in the world who will be selling these kind of templates for a significant amount of money, whereas it's right there in HubSpot, isn't it? And unlike a lot of gurus where there's no way to know for certain, shall we say, whether they're actually any good at the thing they claim to be. At least with HubSpot, we know that they're using emails and templates that are actually based on data. So it does become a bit of a no-brainer to at least start with using a template. And then if you want to refine it, like we mentioned, you can do for every single email. That is cool. So what other tools would you say that, I'm going to use the term that's a bit cringe, like a game changer though. Are there any tools that just do completely change an entire sales process? So maybe the things we've been speaking about there, like snippets, that's a nice to have. That's something that is going to save a lot of time, but it's maybe not an absolute game changer. So are there any tools or any ways to maybe use those tools that will genuinely transform a sales organization potentially and the results they're getting?
Believe it or not, one of them is ChatSpot inside of HubSpot. You can actually summarize a record using ChatSpot. And so what you'll do is they're on the record, it's under the actions drop down at the top. I'm pointing to it like you guys can see what I'm doing. And it says summarize with ChatSpot, and a new pane opens up in ChatSpot, and ChatSpot will read the record, parse the information, and then give you a summary of a contact, a deal, whatever you just tried to summarize in ChatSpot. And then you don't have to do it. You can just read the summary. So if it's something where this lead is 2 or 3 years old, because that happens, right?
Yep.
And it was something you worked a long time ago, but you're like, I kind of don't remember anything. Just give yourself some time back in your day and have ChatSpot summarize it for you. It's been a game changer. Like as soon as I show, and it's not just for sales too, it could be helpful for service too. So if you have a client that had a lot of tickets in and you're like, holy crap, that's a lot of tickets, have ChatSpot summarize it. It'll tell you. Obviously, it's AI, right? But it's better than nothing at all.
And that's huge, because the amount of times back when I was a freelancer, if I had back-to-back sales calls with potential new clients, I'd just make notes on paper. And if I had like 3 calls back to back, I often wouldn't actually put those notes on my computer. I just sort of leave them there.
Exactly.
And then, and I know a lot of sales reps do the same as well, and they have it in their heads, oh, I'll remember it. But even just a couple of days later, if I spoke to them, they would remember the whole conversation, because obviously you're the only one they're speaking to. But from my point of view, I'm then getting confused. Oh, was it this person who said X, or was it this other person who said X? And did this person say Y, or did the other person say Y? So yeah, having AI literally tell you what was said, even if it's not perfect at the moment, that's certainly a lot better than nothing. So Elizabeth.
Yeah, and obviously the caveat is that the information has to be in HubSpot. So if you're someone like, I like handwriting stuff because I remember it more, I totally get that. And then, like, seriously, do yourself a favor, take the time to transcribe them. Put it back into HubSpot in Notes, or wherever you want to put it. Notes is the best place. But because then they can be summarized, in ChatSpot. And also then too, if you leave or you transfer roles or do something like that, somebody who needs to come along and pick up where you left off will be better off in the long run. So you're just doing your future self and your future team a favor by taking a few minutes and putting that into HubSpot.
Oh, because it must be a nightmare, mustn't it? If you're a sales manager and you finally trained up your sales reps, you've got a team, it's operating really well, and then 2 suddenly leave in the space of a week. You've then got to onboard 2 new people, and suddenly you've lost a lot of potential training material just because it hasn't been logged properly. So Elizabeth, we are going to end that there. I think this has been a phenomenal episode once again. I'd love to have you back more often, and I'm sure the listeners will. So listeners, this is your second and definitely not your final dose of Elizabeth. So Elizabeth, once again, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks. Look forward to the next time.
See you later, everyone.